Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
All right, boom, 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 boom. We are back at Find Your Freedom. And before we get into this guest, here at Find Your Freedom, we got something special for you. An easy downloadable. Just go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Once again, findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit is a special thing we have for you to help you find your freedom. Now, this next guest is super awesome, right? We're going to get into, her and her nursing background. We're going to get into a few of her childhood passions that she got going on. She's an amazing Airbnb host, but most importantly, what we're going to do is a lot of people really don't know about the operations and what it takes to really, manage an Airbnb, and she is the best at it. So with that being said, we got our girl, Kellyn Cameron. How you doing?
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
What's up, Kellyn? Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a retired nurse. I am now working as the operations manager for Alpha Geek Capital. So I get to work closely with Tony and Sarah Robinson and Omid as well. So I get to manage their portfolio of short-term rentals, and I'm also an investor in short-term rental owner myself, and my husband and I are also house hackers. I'm originally from Wisconsin, proud Wisconsinite, love Wisconsin, but now my husband and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and probably the other biggest part of my life, and now my husband's life too, is our two horses, Hank and Clyde. I have loved being around animals my entire life, especially horses. And so I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to own two horses. And I also compete with them all around the East Coast, which is kind of just like an added bonus for me.
Wow. So when I think about Kellyn, I think about like somebody who's lived like 10 different lives all in one. And how old are you?
29.
Yeah. So you're only 29 and you've done all these things. So walk us through like your philosophy around how you've like constructed your life to kind of be where you're at. Because I think a lot of people, they graduate, they do a traditional job, and they don't maybe experience some of the passions that you have or even had all the experiences that you've had in a very short time.
Right. And I think that's something that like very recently, I guess, like within the past couple of years, like really changed for me because, going throughout high school and early college, like being a nurse was like all I ever really wanted to be, all I thought that not that all I ever thought I was going to be, but that's what I thought my path was. Because like when I was in high school, I was diagnosed with a heart condition, and nursing just kind of like struck me as the path that I wanted to go down. And I got rejected from several nursing schools for several different reasons. I finally got in during the pandemic and went through nursing school, and in the middle of nursing school, I lost my uncle in a plane crash. And it was very traumatic for our family. And I kind of like realized through that experience that like nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. The next opportunity isn't guaranteed. So that was kind of like a shifting point for me, was like, is this really what's going to make me happy? Like, is this really what I want? Just knowing like the schedule and the demand, for nurses, and there's different opportunities. But when I finally got out of nursing school and started working, I tried a couple different positions. I tried a couple different jobs. And every time I got into one, I was just kind of like, this isn't what I want. Like, this isn't, it never felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And that kind of just like allowed me to start saying no to certain things and driving myself further towards things that I wanted to say yes to.
Wow. Man, me was right. For you to be 29, you done lived an amazing life, I feel as though I'm speaking to someone that's like so much more wise, I'm like, wow, but, man, so, you're growing up and I believe you were into sports,
Yeah.
right? And I guess tell us a little bit about that because I think you mentioned something about, your heart condition. So I think you was going, I guess, was being an athlete before the nursing or was that after, the nursing?
I mean, I've been like involved in sports my entire life, but the nursing, I guess, because like, I think that kind of came like right around, I guess, the time of the heart condition, because when I was like super young, I wanted to be a whale trainer for a while, and like there were a whole bunch of things kind of sprinkled in there. But once I was diagnosed with that heart condition, the nurse that that kind of like helped guide me through that was like, I think kind of what encouraged me to pursue that path, because I kind of wanted to be that person that she was for me, for other people. But yeah, I think like the sports side of it kind of gave me that experience towards the medical field, and then it kind of just like shifted towards nursing as I kind of went through that experience.
So what I know about Kellyn is she's very competitive. I mean, she's and you did play some basketball and you basically whooped me and Tony was like, he sucks at basketball. So it just he tries to give himself credit like he's good at basketball, but I get the sense that he's probably not that good. I mean, I've never played him on a court, but in an arcade
setting, yeah.
Kellyn Kellyn like whooped us. Like it wasn't even like she was like a different level. She was definitely super competitive.
I broke the record in that arcade.
Oh
yeah, it was like it was a perfect score.
It was like 30. It was 33 baskets in a row.
Oh
yeah.
That's not breaking the record. That's like demolishing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, tell us, like, I think you've kind of come from like this background of sports, and how do you think that ties into even like what you've done, what you're doing today?
I think it's just like it's the mental toughness, I guess, I think is a huge aspect of what that's given me today, because it's like sometimes like real estate and figuring out what you want and kind of like pursuing those opportunities as a grind. Like it's constantly failing and like figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's like what a lot of times athletes go through in their sport, is like it's this constant grind of, going through practice every day. You're constantly trying new things and trying new methods and learning new plays, learning new tactics. And it's a grind, to reach whatever goal you want. And then once you reach that goal, you're kind of going back to the grind again to get to that next level. So I think it's just like there's a big connection between the two, as far as like your mental toughness and just being able to, realize that like you're closer to that goal than you think you are, and be able to, there's kind of, have you guys ever seen like that? It's kind of like a comic from like a cartoon or like a newspaper article where the guy's like digging for gold, and he gets like this close to it, even though he's been digging for like weeks. He gets this close to it and then walks away. It's like if you just would have hit it like 2 or 3 more times, you would have found the gold. So it's just like that, that grind to keep staying true to the path that you're on, and know that like when you put the time in and the effort in, like you're gonna get there. It might just take longer than other people, but you'll eventually get there.
No, that's great. And I think grind is like the perfect word for definitely, in real estate, and you're related back to sports, because that's what you're doing. You're grinding to get better. You're seeing where, your faults are, or you're not so great at it, and you figuring it out. to get there, but talking about that grind, because there's a lot of individuals out there who want to be in this short-term rental world. They see, all the fantastic stories that people share. They see all the pictures that people post taking these great vacations and these fantastic cars that they're driving, but no one talks about the grind that goes on, behind the scenes. Can you give us just some inside scoop on what that grind is like?
I mean, it's like you said, like, and I think that's one of the big disservices of social media, right? Is that like you're always more prone to see like the upsides of it, but no one ever talks about the downsides. Like, you don't really hear a whole lot about like having to deal with the crappy guests and like dealing with the contractors and the vendors and like trying to coordinate all those different services and, making sure that, especially now, like as we're kind of moving into this new world of short-term rentals post COVID, and how you're really having to go above and beyond on that guest experience. So really having to take into account and really take seriously that feedback that you're getting from guests and really giving them that top tier experience, because that's what's going to allow like short-term rental operators to be successful going forward, is like taking that extra time to really create an incredible experience. Because if you don't create that incredible experience and like handle issues as they're coming up and like really kind of take control of that property, like you're not going to be in that top, on that first, second page on the algorithm. So it's really, there's a lot of like details that, and I mean, I'll even admit it, like when I started and like got my first short-term rental, like there's a lot of things that you don't see from the outside that once you're into it, you're like, this is a lot more work and time and effort than what is like first portrayed. Like when you first see it, like, you're a new person like scrolling on your Instagram and you're like, oh, invest in short-term rentals. Like it looks really great. And it is great. I love it. But there's so much more once you get into it that you don't really realize from first glance.
So I think before we kind of dive into some of the operation things and maybe like tips that you could even share with the operators, maybe you can spill the tea on how do you even work with the Robinsons? I'm sure like there's all sorts of people who are like, they would die to want to work for the Robinsons. Like, how did that opportunity even come up? And what would you say to somebody who wants to maybe get in the space and work with somebody who can maybe mentor them or team up with somebody? What would you say to those?
Go to events. That is how I landed this opportunity. I went to last March, so almost a year ago now, the Robinsons held a ride-along event where they had people come out to California, and it was kind of like a networking event, and we went to several of their properties out in Joshua Tree. And I mean, I went to this event, I went by myself, my husband was working, and I naturally, like once you get to know me, I'm very much an extrovert, but like in scenarios where I don't know anybody else, I'm very much an introvert. It's very uncomfortable for me to go to events like that and have to like small talk with people. So I kid you not, like before that first mixer started, I was on the phone with my husband for like 40 minutes. I was like, Dan, you have to like make me get out of this room, because if I don't get up and leave right now, like I'm not leaving tonight, like I'm staying in here and like I'm not going to this mixer. And he's like, you have to go, like walk out the door. He's like, walk up to the door, open the door and shut it behind you. And I was like, okay, here we go. And then once I was out and like I started talking to people, it was fine. But going to those events and like really pushing yourself to be out of your comfort zone and talking to people, like that's all I really did at that event, was just talk to people. I made connections with people. I talked with Tony and Sarah. I talked with Omid, and trying to make those genuine connections with people. Because then, it might not pay off the next day, but it might pay off like 2 months down the line. So, right, like then in 2 months later, right, I get I think it was a text. Yeah, it was a text message, and I didn't have Tony's number saved in my phone. And he had texted me and was like, hey, are you, potentially interested in this position we have available? And I was like, I showed it to Dan and I was like, this has got to be a scammer. Like there's no way that like Tony would be texting me about a job opportunity. I legit thought it was a scammer. So I had his email from the ride along and I emailed him and I was like, hey, did you by chance send me a text like asking about a job opportunity? He was like, yeah, that was me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I thought it was a scammer, but then it ended up being a good fit for the job and decided to come on board, and it's been a great experience.
That's fantastic. And there's just a few things that I want to unpack there because it's just so important, right? So, one of the big things that you said is go to events and meet people. Well, let me just share something with you. This is how this podcast came about. I went to an event, Omid went to an event, Tony was there, went to the event. We all met each other, right? So and then you talked about ROI, and man, we met each other, I don't know, what was it, 3 to 4 years ago? And, the ROI is paying back now, from just us staying in touch with each other, messaging each other, on virtual meetups with one another. But let me ask you this question, because you said that you were locked in your room, in the hotel room, a mixer going on, and you knew you needed to be there. And you called your supporter, which is your husband, right? And he's sitting there telling you, giving you what you need to know to get out there. How important is it to have someone in your corner for times like that when you just don't know what to do?
It's so important. And it doesn't even specifically have to be like your significant other. If it's like a friend or, like an aunt or even like a parent or whatever it is, like having someone that, like knows and understands what you're trying to do, right? Like you don't want someone that's like totally not supportive of you, like going into real estate or whatever it is that you want to do. And like my husband works full time for the airlines. Like he, at this point, is not like super involved in like what I'm doing on the real estate side, but he's incredibly supportive of it. And he knows that like I'm kind of like the person to go to for this, and I'm like kind of leading the charge on it. So we have these dreams and aspirations. Like he kind of is pushing me because he knows we both have the same goals in it. I'm just more involved in it than he is. So like to have that person just kind of like pushing you towards it is just like knowing that they believe in you, right? They believe in you. They believe in where we're going, what we're trying to do. And just like have someone in your corner that is like willing to be like, hey, stop being stupid and like go, like, this is what you need to do, just go. I think is a game changer, right? Because otherwise, without having that, you can kind of get in your own head and be like, it's okay, like I'll just go tomorrow, like I'll just go to the event tomorrow and like it'll be fine. And without having that and having that push to go to like that mixer that night, Tony might not have texted me that day.
Wow. Yeah, so I love that. I think about accountability. It sounds like it's an accountability partner, and also having a soundboard, somebody to kind of bounce your thoughts, and just knowing like this is the vision, this is the intent of me coming out here. And and I think you didn't mention that you're out of state, so you flew in to come to this event. So it's expensive to fly into the event and even show up. So I kind of want to like change, like move gears a little bit. Like you talked about like tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the story of your uncle, and I guess for some people they may not experience like a certain like life event or painful type of event to kind of assess like priorities. So what would you say to somebody who hasn't experienced that and making a determination as far as how they plan out their life?
I guess for someone that hasn't experienced it, it's like you kind of have to think of the things that you like, if money, if time, if there were no barriers, right, to anything, like if you just could pick anything, do anything, be anyone, like what would you want, right? And then kind of like if none of those things were barriers, like who would you want to be, what would you want to do, and then like ask yourself, why is it unattainable, right? Is it that I don't have enough money? Okay, well, there's, being in real estate and around other entrepreneurs, there's several ways that you can kind of circumvent that and get ahead of that. If it's not enough time, there's different ways that you can find more time. Like there's all these different ways, like, and kind of if you create like be like, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to do, and these are the reasons why I can't. Those are almost like you're telling yourself, you're giving yourself excuses as to why you can't get there. Like there's always, if you want it that bad and that's actually something that you really truly want, like you'll find a way to make it happen. Like just as an example, like I grew up with horses. I love horses. It's one of my life passions, but as you get older, a lot of times the passions that you have as kids go away for several reasons. And I knew from the time that I aged out as a junior exhibitor when I was 18 that like I wanted horses to still be a part of my life in some aspect or another, whether that was working in the industry or, owning a horse of my own, just being involved in some way, shape, or form. I still wanted horses to be a part of my life. So I was working at a barn. I was teaching lessons, finding different ways to still be involved in it because I knew that was something I wanted. That's not something that I was willing to compromise on in my life. And like I found a way to make it happen. I found different jobs and different positions that allowed me to still make that a part of my life because I knew that was something that was important to me. So I guess like if you have an experience like an event like that really shifts your mindset, it's just like figure out what you want your ideal life to look like and then figure out ways to make it work, right? Because if it's truly important to you and truly something that you want, you'll figure out some way to make it work.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything you just said. Honestly, I really did. I mean, the one of, you sit back and I'm looking at my notes here, who do I want to be? Like, you really should sit back and think about that, right? And then answer that question. I love the follow-up that you said to that. Answer that question, right? And then what you said is, if you have a passion for it and you really want it, right, you will go out and find it. That's just like this. I always tell this story. I sit there and say, all of us were kids, and there was a time we couldn't go to that party.
Right.
Right? Our parents said, nope, can't go to the party. But we knew we were going to go to that party. So what did we do? We told our parents that we're going to stay at Ronnie's house. And we knew Ronnie's parents would let us go to the party. And mom, she's super cool with Ronnie's parents. So she let us go over there and Ronnie's parents let us go to the party. So and that's the mindset that we have to have as adults as well, right? When that door is not open, what other doors we can open up to sit there and get, what we're looking for. So let me ask you, because you talked about mindset, right? You ended there. And you see, as you get, older, your passions start to change. So I guess, what are you doing to make sure that your mindset is where it needs to be so you can continue on with your why and your passion?
And I think this is like, I was thinking a lot about this before, we met here and like, I guess what my mindset is or how I've kind of like crafted my mindset. And one thing that kept like coming to the top of my mind was this concept of like failing forward. And it's something that Sarah Blakely, she's the CEO and founder of Spanx. She has talked about a lot, and she was saying in this one video that I watched of her, she was talking about like how when she was younger, her dad would always ask her and her brother like at the dinner table what they failed at that day. And like, he wasn't interested in hearing about what they succeeded at. He was interested in hearing about what they failed at, because when you fail, you have the opportunity to build on that and grow more experience, grow more confidence, grow more as a person and get closer to those goals. So I think that's, something that I'm really kind of like grasping onto, especially for 2023, and, you know, not being afraid to fail. And it's not a failure. It's just a future success. Like, your failure now leads to your future success. So failing forward and kind of embracing that, because everybody does. Like, there's not a single person that's involved in anything that hasn't failed at one point or not in their life or hit rock bottom. So it's just like a matter of how you handle that failure and, you know, kind of what you do after that to help get you closer to your success that really matters.
So I want to touch on that a little bit. So, you know, because I never fail. I'm perfect.
Omit's the one and only.
You know, like, no, yeah. Nice, but maybe clarify like what failing even means, like even like the simplicity of a failure, for people, so that they can even define it for themselves. Because sometimes, like, is failure have to be something major, or could be something very simple? And then maybe walk us through like the reflection process, because I think a lot of times people fail, but maybe they fail to like reflect on the actual moment and the teachable moment for that failure.
Right. And I think failure is very subjective, right? Like, what is a failure to me might not be a failure to you. So I think it's very different for everybody. Like, personally, like, a failure for me is when I don't, like, I have kind of like 5 or 6 things that are kind of like a miracle morning sort of thing. They're just like tasks that, it's like going for a walk, you know, taking my vitamins, like reading, journaling, kind of like these things that I just do like every day, that I want to do every day, that just like make me feel good, right? And on days where like I don't complete all those tasks, there's like a sense of failure to myself, right? That I didn't treat myself that day the way that I wanted to, in the way that I should have. So there's like, that's not like a huge failure, but there's certain things that I want to do each day that are going to make me feel better. They're going to make me a better person. And when I don't do those things, I feel like I'm failing myself, because I know that doing those things each day are going to help me get closer to the things that I want. So, I mean, that's just like an example of like a small fail, I guess. But then when I look at like my week's worth of, you know, tasks, right, that I checked off, and I look at, you know, where did I miss? And I look at, why did I miss? Was I out of town? Was I traveling? Did I not sleep great the night before? So I kind of like look at, why did this happen? What did I not do that caused me to miss these things, that caused me these small failures? And then I'm kind of like, okay, I didn't plan out my meals well enough this week. I didn't, you know, get up when I say that I was going to get up. And then I can really look at that and be like, well, why didn't I get up? Why didn't I do this? And then what can I do differently so that I don't miss that again in the future? And I think it kind of hurts sometimes when you look at that, and you have to be stupidly honest with yourself. Like, why didn't I get up today? My bed was kind of cozy. And like, it's a lame excuse, but like sometimes that happens, right? You wake up and your alarm goes off and you're like, it was rainy outside, I was warm in my bed, like I didn't want to get up. And you have to be stupid honest with yourself on those days. Like, I didn't treat myself right that day. Like, you want to get up at a certain time to get your stuff done and you don't get up on time, like, you're not doing yourself justice. And by being completely honest with yourself, you can be like, okay, I didn't get it today. I failed myself today. That's okay. Tomorrow I won't. I won't let it happen again. And just being, you know, very honest with yourself about the shortcomings, because we all have them. And then kind of moving forward from that in the future.
You know, being honest with yourself is key, right? And, you know, one of the things that, you know, I like to do, I like to call it Reflection Fridays, right? You know, where you reflect over, you know, the week of, just like you mentioned,
right,
all the things that went right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. and then all the things that went not so right.
Yeah.
Oh, right? But they're very important to sit there and identify the two, because as much as pat on the backs you want to give yourself, you also want to look at the things where you can improve in. But something you mentioned, is morning routines, right? And I'm big on habit building, because that's a big habit builder. So give us what your morning routine is, to sit there and say, when I start my morning off like this and I go through my routines, I typically have a successful day.
The best mornings for me are when I love getting up early in the morning. Me and Omid are morning people. Like it can be 4 a.m. Omid's time and we're texting back and forth already. But like 5 a.m. like getting up, reading and journaling right away are like the two big ones, because those are things that if you kind of put them off until later in the day, it's really easy to just be like, I don't want to do it anymore. So reading and journaling right away, and then working out first thing in the morning, because especially being on like the West Coast time zone, as far as like the majority of my work duties, if I work out early in the morning, I can get through an entire workout pretty much uninterrupted. So getting that workout in first thing, going for a walk, and then kind of like taking care of just like some personal, like cleaning out my email inbox, doing a load of laundry, like something that's just gonna, make you feel good and accomplished kind of before the rest of the world gets up.
I like that. I love like the morning routine. I like what Lenny talked about as far as building habits. I think, you are your habits, and journal, like explain journaling, because I think journaling can mean so many things to so many people. So what does that even mean? And like, what do you journal?
Whatever I want. It just kind of like, some days it's like a reflection on the day before. Some days it's I talk about like things that I'm excited about for that day. Some days I'm bitching just because I don't want to bitch at someone else, right? Like I just kind of get all that out in the air. Because sometimes like you just want to complain about stuff, but you don't, like, other people don't want to hear you complain, right? So sometimes I just like complain to the journal, because you can write it all down, get all the grief out, and then like you feel better. But I think that's, some people are like, well, why should I journal? Like, I don't have anything to write about. And it's like, you don't have to write like a novel. Every time you go to journal, sometimes I write like 3 or 4 pages, and sometimes I write a half a page. It's just like kind of whatever. I think it's just good to get your thoughts out sometimes, and just kind of like, it's a good place to reflect with yourself and kind of just like check in with yourself. And one thing I also do too is like write down 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. Like at the end of each of my entry, I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, because I think that's something that we as humans oftentimes don't do enough, is just like kind of reflect on, the things that we're grateful for in life. And I think that that's something that's super important, just to like reflect on daily, like, what are you grateful for in your life?
Listen, the journaling and what you said, I just wrote that down, that was super great, was you said, look, some people don't want to hear you complain. So take it,
yeah,
baby, because the journal is not biased at all. The journal,
exactly.
And I think that's so cool. So for the listeners, when you're having a tough day, and that you're having a tough day, and you don't want anyone to jump into your petty party or whatever the situations are, take it to the journal.
Absolutely.
And that's where you give it. But let me tell you another thing too, which I enjoy, because I do this too, is the gratitude, right? You do 3, I write down a minimum of 5. I learned from this one individual where even when you're having a tough time with your counterpart, you should write down the things you are grateful for.
Yeah.
For that person. And by doing those things, you will find out that whatever that argument or the reason why you're upset or you're mad, just sit there and take the back seat, because there's so many other things that are important to be, grateful for. as well. So thank you for sharing that, because so many people need to really identify with that and write those things down. But, I guess before, because listen, you're just like this wealth of knowledge. I can't believe it. So this seems like, I mean, Omin hit it right on the nose. I mean, you're just like, I just want to sit here and just go, tell me more, talk to me more, but hey, if you could give the listeners, I don't know, 2 to 5 tips on how to be a better operator, short-term rental operator.
Write everything down. Write down your processes, kind of just outline everything, and keep like a record of that, whether it's in a Google Doc, a task manager that you have. So that way, when there's recurring situations that come up, you can kind of just reference that situation, and it kind of just becomes like not an autopilot thing, but you don't have to put so much effort and energy into it every time a situation comes up. So kind of like keeping a really good log of like your standard operating procedures, and those unique situations that come up. The second one would be find a way that you can stand out with your short-term rental, whether it's some sort of a unique space or game room or amenity that you can offer. Having something in your property that other operators are not offering, I think is something, especially now, like I said before, kind of moving into this new like post-COVID normal, having something that is really going to like draw people into your property is going to be super important moving forward.
Cool. No, I love that. I think there's a lot of value to be had with like processes, and I think that's something that I've had to learn over time. And is there any like software programs that you would recommend as far as recording those things? Like, is it better to have it written down or on video? And just because I think that's an area that I think people don't really understand until they start.
Right. And
so any recommend?
Yeah, I mean, like we use Monday for like Tony and Sarah's properties, and I personally haven't used any other software for things like that because this is like the first time that I've ever done this. But Monday has been super useful and helpful for me because you can upload videos, documents kind of all under the same row almost. So we kind of have like all of ours separated out by different categories, and there's different situations within each category, and I can upload, like a text document as well as a Loom video that's attached with it, so that, anyone that's going in to like look for a situation like about, how does the hot tub work or something, anybody like Omid, Lenny, you both could go into Monday and like find a video about and a text document about how this works. So I think Monday has been probably my most influential software, just like as far as, kind of getting all that stuff written down and put somewhere in space.
Kellyn, listen, we can go on and on and on because, you're just that enjoyable. You really are, but we got to have you back on. So, but before, we close the show, we always like to ask our guests, what does Find Your Freedom mean to you?
To me, and I'm a little bit copying Brandon Turner on this, but it's being where I want, doing what I want, when I want, with who I want. I think just having that all-encompassing freedom to wake up every day and be like, that's what I want to do today, and that's who I want to do it with. I think that's what freedom means to me.
I think that's like that is the perfect concise answer. So, how can people connect with you? They want to know more about Kellyn and her story and her 11 lives.
The best way to contact me is on Instagram. It's at Kellyn Cameron. Mostly just on Instagram right now.
Awesome. All right. So this is the fun time of the show. And what we like to do, we like to bust out some speakers. We like to mess up some eardrums right here. This is our boom session. So what we're going to do is in a uniform manner. We're going to count to 3, and then all 3 of us is
Got
gonna say,
it.
boom.
Ready.
Let me know y'all ready. Everybody's ready?
Ready.
All right. Let me sit up a little bit over here for the listeners that can't see us. All right. 1, 3, 2. Awesome. Check this out, man. We just had an amazing friend to the show, Kellyn. She's absolutely amazing. You want to re-listen to this episode over and over and over because she's just that thorough. All right. And with that being said, we all know that here at Find Your Freedom, we love to make sure that we give you something that's going to help you find yours. So you can go to this site and go easily download it. Go to findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Once again, Find Your Freedom, REI.com/freedom kit. Now, what we need you to do is take a listen to our episodes. Leave an honest 5-star review, because this is how we get to bring you more and more and more episodes just like this. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. Don't just share it with your friend or your coworker. Share it with your mother, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, and any and everybody that's in your contact list. With that being said, until the next Find Your Freedom episode, talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.